Dr. Pinesett here, the Premed productivity expert, and I want to do another live today because I got an inspiring message this weekend, and I want to share that message with you guys to help you get better grades. So if you are a student and you're trying to figure out what are the steps I need to take to get better grades, then this is the video you're going to watch because I'm going to give you 3 R's for improving your grades and becoming that student you want to be. Let's hit the intro and let's get right to it, guys.
But stop making excuses, stop whining, stop, right? Get at it. No excuses, just dominate.
I get so excited to be live, y'all. How's it going? Good afternoon, Meryl. How's it going? All right, so today we're talking studying. And I guess it works for all students, but we're going to talk about studying today. As you guys know, we're here. It's positivity. It's productivity. It's helping you reach your goals faster and better and happier. That's what we all want, right? We want to be happy people, productive people, and we want to be successful people. And so today I want to share with you guys a message I got yesterday on this Sunday this week from my church. And so if you guys do not know, I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. And so from yesterday's sermon, there was a parable that was told in the church. And this parable, I think, is rich for all of you guys, regardless of your religious affiliations, whatever. I think there's huge value in this message. And so the parable goes like this. There's a guy, a man, a father who has 2 sons, and he owns a vineyard. And he wants his sons to work in this vineyard. And so he goes to his sons and says, "Sons, please work the vineyard today." And the first son says, "Dad, there's no way I'm going to work in that vineyard." And he walks away. He then realizes, oh snap, that's not the right thing to do. I should listen to my dad. He turns around, goes back, and he works in the vineyard. Doesn't say anything to his dad, but works in the vineyard. The second son says, "Dad, of course I'll work in your vineyard." Yet he does not go work in the vineyard and just disappears. And at the end, the whole parable is, which son did the dad appreciate? Well, he appreciated the one who said no, but did the job anyway. And the 3 R's that the sermon presented, which I think are amazing for you guys. Yogi says, one of your favorite parables. Josh Sean says the prodigal son, right? This is it. And so the 3 R's that the preacher presented, which I thought were amazing, were repent, return, and rejoice. And it's not about religion, but it is about religion, right? It's about you guys and improving yourselves as students, because what we want, right, is that success. And so he talks about repent, return, and rejoice. I want to use these 3 R's, teach you guys how to be better students. Can I do that? If you guys want this message right now, like this video, let me know. Dr. Pine said, I'm ready to get these 3 R's up in me so I can become a better student and I can see that pathway. The first R is repent. To repent, what does that mean, y'all? And I think it was so eloquently pointed out during the sermon that repent actually comes from a word that means from the heart. And so when we talk about repenting, when we talk about, right, saying, you know what, I was wrong, I got to do certain things differently, I got to change, it comes from within the heart. And so for many of you guys as students, how many of you guys have a bad quarter, have a bad week, have a bad life, right? It's a bad, terrible, terrible time you guys are having academically, yet every single term you find some factor to blame. The teacher, the book, the exams, your family. You find all these things outside of yourselves to blame, and then you tell yourself the next term's going to be different. I'm here to tell you that if you do not accept the blame, accept the responsibility, if you're not to say, dang, it's me, you will never get better grades. And I say this, and it's so important, hear me and hear me now. The only factor that you can control in your success is you. That's it. Nothing else. Everything else external to that is external. All you control is you. You guys know, right? One of my favorite, right, expressions, something I say to myself every single day when I wake up, remind myself in the morning, is everything I am or ever will be is a direct result of me. My effort, my care, my focus, and my attention. Because I want all of the responsibility. And it can seem like it's a blame thing, like, oh, I don't want to take responsibility. I'm making myself feel bad. But it's not that thing, guys. It's not a negative thing to take responsibility. It's a positive thing, because then if we recognize the only factor we have control over is us, and we recognize that the problem is us, we are syncing these 2 things, and A plus B equals C, we are telling ourselves we are in complete control of our outcomes. Complete control of our outcomes. And so there's power in that, because we recognize, hey, I'm not a bad student, but I've been practicing bad behavior. I've been doing the wrong things. I've been having a dysfunctional approach to studying. I've been wasting time on ineffective approaches. Does that make sense? So once we take the responsibility, we can acknowledge that it's us and we can look at these things and then we can change those things. But if we do not accept responsibility, we cannot change. And one of the key moments in my life, guys, if you guys know, I almost flunked out of college. Here I am, right? Stanford trained physician. I work with students to teach them how to get A's. I work with students to get into medical school. Here I was after my freshman year in danger of flunking out, being told by my counselor that I would never be the great student. And for many of us, how many of you guys have ever been told by somebody that you aren't a great student, that you can't get to medical school, that you're not capable as a student? And for a lot of us, when we hear those words, it's a label and it's something that sticks to us and it holds true and it rings true in our heart. Because when someone's telling us that, oh, they must be right, they must be accurate, because I am a bad student. And this comes from not recognizing and not taking the responsibility that you are the problem and therefore you can change, you can evolve. And so in that moment, I decided, again, I love Tony Robbins. One of the quotes he has is, I decided I would never settle for less than I could be. And I decided, right, from that moment that, you know what? I am being the average student because I am having average focus. I am taking average action. I am having an average approach to studying. And as a result, my grades are average or below average. And so I choose today to take responsibility, to say it is me, to repent for my poor behavior and say, I'm going to perform better. You know, from my situation, one of my issues was that I was a terrible reader. And it turns out I was a disorganized studier. How many of you guys are disorganized studiers? I was a disorganized studier in that for me, my approach was I felt like I didn't belong in college. And so I started copycatting everything else everyone else was doing. Oh, you're doing that? Okay, I'm doing that. Okay, I'm doing that. And so it seemed like almost on a daily basis, my routine, my approach to studying was changing. And it was a bunch of like gumbos, a bunch of stew, as opposed to being something that's a fine meal, right? Of something that's planned out and that's amazing. And so as a result, right, I couldn't succeed. I was all over the place. And so I had to tell myself, no, I'm going to get organized. I'm going to think about, okay, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my issues? And for me, going to lecture was very difficult because I was a person who didn't feel like I belonged. So when I went to lecture, I didn't feel comfortable. And at that time, I didn't recognize the importance of preparing for lecture. I hope you guys all prepared for lecture. And so I would go to lecture unprepared. And then I would get into lecture and I would be confused, but because I felt like I didn't belong and people were judging me, I wouldn't ask the questions I needed to get clarity. And so for me, lecture was an unacceptable place, a place where my grades went to die. And so I had to look at that. But at the same time, the reason I went to lecture all the time was because I was a poor reader. And so I then had to recognize that, hey, I'm a bad reader, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad reader for forever. I can change, I can improve, I can overcome, I can work differently to be the reader I want to be. And so I committed myself to reading and to becoming better and to being more focused and allocating my time appropriately. And as a result, my grades changed. And so I ask all of you guys, right? This first R is repent. Can all of us, can you personally, I'm looking directly at you, can you today commit and make the decision that you will not allow yourself to cause yourself to have bad grades? That you will attempt to make changes? That today will be the first day of the better student you could be, where you take responsibility, you stop blaming other things, and you look at yourself and you look at how you are contributing to your lack of success. And then you attack those things in a healthy way, but we attack our actions. We look at things that aren't helpful to us, and we seek ways to improve, to optimize, to better ourselves so that we can be a better student. Can we commit to that today? Can you guys comment right now? If you're watching this, we are live action. Like this video and comment right now and let me know. Say, hey, listen, Dr. Pinesett, I'm committed to changing. I'm committed to being different because I recognize I have some bad habits, some bad behaviors. We all do, right? But I'm going to have a little less bad habits. I got 10 bad habits. I'm going to have 9 bad habits tomorrow. And then maybe 8 the day after that. I'm going to commit to changing myself, to changing my perspective, to being the better student. Can we do that? All right, I see some people commenting on it. Thank you so much. Okay, so now the second thing up, okay? So that's the first thing, that first R, repent. We take the responsibility, we acknowledge that we're the problem, we're gonna fix that problem. Now, if we're gonna fix that problem, we get to the second R, which is return, right? So that son, he said, Dad, I'm not gonna do it. He left, but he returned and did the work and put the action in. And so that's what this return is for you guys. The second step is every time responsibility, we've got to be a person of action. not a person of words, a person of actual action to drive that change in our lives. And it starts with returning where? To the beginning. Too many of us as students, how many of you guys are busy as students? And so what do we do as busy people? We refuse to take that one step back that would allow us to leapfrog forward because we're too busy. It's going to keep running. What I implore you to do, guys, is take a few days, take a week, whatever, and take the step back. Take the time. My throat is dry. Let me get some water here. We are live action, y'all. Take the second, take the step back. Go back to the beginning. For so many students, we've been trained improperly. Most students aren't even trained to learn, but most students have been passively, indirectly, incoherently trained to study inappropriately. Things like highlighting, right? Things like the standard, we hear 20-minute Pomodoro technique. No. We hear things about going to lecture and learning from the lecture and then reading after. We hear all these things. We've been systematized through our education process to learn the wrong way. So what I want you guys to do is go all the way back. And I want you to attack every single thought and belief you have about studying. And ask yourself if it's valid, if it's helping you. A great example of this, I mentioned, I was a poor lecture student. So for you guys as students, are you a quality lecture student? Are you, as so many of my students are you English second language? Right? Where English is your second language. If English is your second language, what are the odds you're going to be a high level, higher education, lecture going student? Or are you going to be confused because you don't have a basic vocabulary in English, let alone an advanced scientific vocabulary? Right? So we have to look at that. We have to reason that through, and we have to make the change. We have to say, okay, you know what? I'm not that lecture student. I'm going to switch. I'm going to change that. I know they told me to go to lecture all the time, but I'm not going to go to lecture. Instead, I'm going to study independently by myself. I'm going to read the books. I'm going to watch the lecture recorded. Why? Because this allows me to pause. This allows me to stop and to look things up and define things and to create understanding on my timeline at my level so I can be a more effective student, right? Additionally, maybe you're a student with a learning disability. Someone today was commenting we were a comment battle, or I guess a discussion about ADHD. Well, guys, and my argument was, hey, listen, if you have ADHD, we have to make changes. We have to work differently than other students who don't have ADHD. And this student was like, well, why would I want to overcome ADHD? I'm like, he's like, I get accommodations, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, if you get accommodations, those are to help you get over. And so what I want you guys to understand is if you have a learning disability, whatever you have, you can work around those. You can succeed despite your obstacles. These aren't roadblocks. These aren't things that are going to stop you. These are things that are preventing you right now in this moment from getting there, but you can work around them. We can work differently to overcome them. And so if you are an ADHD student, why are you trying to do what everyone else does and sit down for freaking hours and hours on end trying to sit in the book or sit in the lecture? That's not for you. You've got ADHD. So we have to work differently. And part of that difference is we need to work in smaller blocks. We need to have mechanisms that we institute into our studying that allow us to build into our studying mental checkpoints, that allow us to build in opportunities to assess, am I focused? Am I active? Am I engaged? Am I on task? I have to build in infrastructure into my study environment that prevents and removes potential distractors from my scheduling. I need to look at my sleep maintenance. I need to look at my health. I need to make sure all the factors that come together are in sync for my ADHD. So I want you guys to return to the beginning and examine everything you're doing and improve it from the ground up. Does that make sense to everybody? Did I lose people right there as I went on? I get excited when I talk about studying, but if you're still with me, like the video, let me know we still here. Is everybody getting me right now? Alejandra said, being ESL is toit. I was like, toit? That's weird. Tough is the correct thing. I thought you were going to be like, it's toit. It's the best thing ever. No, it's hard. It makes it difficult, but we can overcome it. Okay? In addition to examining what you do, even before that, I want you guys to examine your mindset, guys, because so many students, how many of you guys out there right now doubt yourself on an everyday basis? You constantly struggle with confidence. You constantly struggle with motivation. You constantly struggle with the will to carry on and to do the things you need to be successful. We got to stop that. We got to fix our mindset. We got to get healthy in our mindset. If you need help with your mindset, guys, there's no better place to go than to my mini course, the Successful Student 3-Day Mindset Makeover. In 3 days, you will have an entirely different outlook into yourself, into your place in the world, and into your academic potential. Highly recommend it, guys. Check out my website, premedproductivity.com. Get over there. There's a link in the box below, actually, for my mindset course. Check that out. Improve yourself. Get there. Okay? I want you guys, one last thing, then we'll move on. But is everybody still with me? Is part of this return is I want you guys to return to your actual methodology of studying. And I say this because it's a switch that we have to flip. Most students are taught that the quantity of time they spend studying, the more time they spend studying, the better. Quantity, 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 quantity. We don't want that anymore, guys. We want to be quality students. We don't want to study in bulk, right? We don't want that bulk single ply toilet paper. We want to be that thick triple ply toilet paper that everybody wants. That's us, guys. We want to be quality students, not quantity students. We want to spend all day in the library. We want to be, when we are studying, we want to make our 1 hour worth 4 hours of our times. So I want us to change methodologies. No more finding time to study. Instead, I want you to find ways to make the time you study more effective, more efficient. So we're going to switch from study more, get better grades, to study less, get better grades. Look for ways to streamline and simplify things. Okay? Lastly, with this return word, right? The second R is return. I want you guys to constantly return back into yourselves to analyze and assess how things are going. Too many students implement something because they hear it, and then they don't check to see, is it actually getting them the result? Just because something feels good doesn't mean it actually performs good. Just because something's good for someone else doesn't mean it's good for us. So if you implement a study strategy, it's imperative that you assess and you analyze, did this improve me? How did it improve me specifically? And is that improvement worthwhile? How can I maximize and amplify that improvement? In what ways could I make this better for myself? Does that make sense? We have to constantly be assessing ourselves, giving ourselves feedback so we can improve and make every single day of our studying the best day we've ever studied. Every single day is our best day yet. That's how it should be, guys. So that's the first 2 R's, repent and return. Is everybody still with me? Is everybody learning? I feel like I feel good about this topic. Is everybody learning? Can I drink some water while I wait for you guys' comments? Josh Sean says, doubting himself all the time. Right? That doubt is real. That doubt is hard. We want to stop that doubt, y'all. The last aura for today, y'all, right? Our first one was repent. We have to take that responsibility on ourselves, and right, we have to commit to changing. The second R is return. We must return back to the beginning, we must break everything down, and we must improve ourselves, mindset, our approach, our study strategies, and then we return and we constantly give ourselves feedback and assess that to move forward. And the last R is to rejoice. Too many students, guys, when you everyone thinks they can become a straight A student in a day, but I'm constantly stressing with my students, straight A's are not made in a day, they're made every day and in every way. Becoming a great student, guys, is a process. We are all on a different curve of meeting our and maximizing our potential. Some of us are not very far along in that curve, right? We're behind, right? If you're a behind student, I'm talking to you. Don't get intimidated by it. Don't feel hopeless about it. Don't feel like, oh man, everyone's got it so much better than me. They got something I don't have. And I say this to you as someone who believed that when I started college. Like I said, I'm a black male. You see this face. I knew I didn't read well. I knew I wasn't an academic high performer. My high school GPA was way below the 4-point-somethings you'll all be having. So when I got to college, I looked around at UC Irvine, home of the ferocious anteaters, zot, and I looked and I was like, man, nobody looks like me. I don't belong here. And I had all these doubts. And I looked at how, oh, you know what? I'm in a triple occupancy dorm, and that guy got a cool off-campus apartment. Oh, you know what? And I don't got money to get all my books. I got to buy the used books if I got them. And then some books I got to borrow, check out from the library. Oh, but someone already checked out library book out. So I don't actually have that book. I got to figure out, right? I looked at all these obstacles that I had, all these disadvantages I had, and I started to feel like, oh, snap, I'm not there. And it becomes this like snowball of hopelessness. And I realized that hopelessness, that feeling of being so behind that I'm already defeated, causes that paralysis, causes us to procrastinate, causes us to say, no, I'm not even going to try because I don't think it's possible for me to be that. Right? Who's ever been there? Who feels that way? I want you to know I felt that way. I was there, but I turned my entire career around by switching. I no longer focused exclusively, first, I didn't focus at all on other people. I stopped the envy, the jealousy, you looking at people sideways. I stopped that. I started focusing on me. And then within me, I stopped focusing on just the grade or just being perfect. I got out of that mindset and I stopped demanding perfection of myself and I started striving for perfection. So it's not a guilt thing, it's a standards thing. So my standard was very high. I want to be the A student, I want to be perfection. But I allowed myself to not be that and not make myself feel bad for not being perfect and not being the A student in one day. And I shifted my focus to making every day, like I said, my best day and improving each and every day. I focused on the process of becoming great. I focused on the baby steps. I started looking at my days and saying, you know what? Man, I know I'm not the best student right now, but you know what? I managed to study for a whole hour today and not get distracted. Man, I'm doing awesome. This is a great process I'm in. I started saying, you know what? Hey, on that quiz, I used to get 5 out of 10s on quizzes. I'm getting 7 out of 10. It's a C, but it's not failing. And I would celebrate that and be excited about that. And the power in that, guys, is that we use those little, minuscule, tiny, easy, some might say, victories, those small gains to motivate us, like little tiny awards, right? You like little kids. My kids are in soccer. They're so excited. They're working hard, get these little freaking awards that everybody gets, like a soccer ball on it. It's like a little piece of tinfoil. They love it. We want those tinfoil necklaces for us. So I want you guys to build those in to your academics. I want you to celebrate the tiny victories, celebrate the tiny moments, celebrate the non-failures. It doesn't have to be a success. Celebrate the non-failure. And that way you can snowball all those little tiny wins into momentum and excite yourself and enjoy the process of becoming the great student. Yes, yes. The last thing I'll say about this rejoice, this celebration of the process, is that we have to understand, we have to recognize that greatness takes time. Straight A's take time. The outcome, it may be delayed, right? It's the end of the quarter, it's 10 weeks away. End of the semester, it's 16 weeks away. We don't know. We can't see the grade today. So it can be like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm doing better. I don't know what my grade is. You guys know if you're doing better, right? If we're being honest, right? We can look at it. But what I want you to recognize and I want you to be excited about is that you are taking action. Because even though outcomes may be delayed, action is immediate. Action is now. Action is something we can see right in front of us. And if you take action, if you took action today, celebrate yourself. Give yourself, I want to see a high five. I want you to pound yourself to yeah, because you stepped up for yourself. You showed up for yourself today. You put in the action, and that action is something we can immediately see. We can immediately celebrate. Celebrate action. Even if it isn't effective, celebrate the fact that you committed to taking that action and you attempted effective action. Even if it wasn't effective, at least you attempted it. And if you attempt enough days, because I promise you, you're going to get to those grades. It will happen. It may not happen overnight, but it will happen. The outcomes will come, but the action is immediate. Do we understand? And get excited about that action. Repent, return, rejoice, guys. Those are our 3 R's for today. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you need help with your process of going through the R's, if you need help with your process of becoming a great student, get with me, guys. Get to my website right now, premedproductivity.com, and get into a course, get into a coaching program, because I'm going to teach you how to take healthy responsibility for your actions. I'm going to teach you how to spark change and to spark the motivation you want and to spark the action you need to improve. And I'm going to teach you how to continually make it better. And I'm going to teach you how to be a study monster, guys. Right? We said outcomes take time. I'm going to shorten that timeline up, guys. I'm going to get you to effective action quickly and get you to outcomes quickly. That's what I do. That's what I'm about, guys. I am the Premed productivity expert. And wait, Star Player has a question. So let me answer this question, then we'll end. Can we do that? Star Player says, how about questioning whether you really want to be a doctor during all this? You know what's so funny, Star Player, about that? You just asked that question, and I was debating tonight whether I was going to. I originally, when I scheduled the stream, I was originally planning to talk about the "Are you meant to be a doctor?" discussion, because I had an interaction with a student recently, and we were talking about, well, should they go into medicine or should they go into something else? And so we went through this like algorithm tree branch of things that I think you guys should be all asking yourselves to see if medicine is really for you, but also to clarify your why medicine question, right? When people ask you that. And so I was thinking about doing that today. I will not do that today, but I will put that on the list to do soon because I was going to do it today. So maybe we'll do it on Wednesday. Maybe that'll be Wednesday's lecture, Star Player. You come back on Wednesday, we'll do that lecture. That's my commitment. We'll talk about medicine and deciding, is this really what it's about? And I'll tell you guys, I'll teach you guys, talk to you guys about my doctoring, right? You see my scrubs getting off, I do anesthesia, just finished my day today, but we'll talk about doctoring and what it means and if it's right for you and how to figure that out. So come back Wednesday, get with me live action. If you haven't already, guys, right, toggle that bell, turn on live notifications so you know when I'm going live. Subscribe, right? Like this video, let the algorithm know, hey, I want more Dr. Pinesett on my feed because this guy brings it, live action. Isaiah says, do you offer service for pre-dental students? Isaiah, of course I do. I literally, in this last week, was just talking to one of my students who is a pre-dental student applying to dental school, and he's in my interview course, my med school interview course, but it's helping him prepare for his dental interviews, and he's actually interviewing at USC this upcoming week, and so we were doing some interview practice to get him ready and talking through some terms for his dental interview, and he's feeling very confident. And it's so funny. This is what a lot of my students always say. Is like, Dr. Pinesett, I never would have thought about it this way. I never would have looked at it this way. Like, this is so, and that's my goal, guys. We can't be extraordinary if we're ordinary. We can't be above average if we're average. And so what we have to do is work differently, and we have to work smarter than others. And that's what I do in my courses and my coaching program is teach you guys to look at the world differently, look at yourselves differently, and to approach things from a unique and advantageous standpoint. So Isaiah, to answer your question, do I offer service for prenatal students? Yes. Yes. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple of students. I have one who got like 6 or 7 dental school acceptances. He ended up improving his dental test score, getting into dental school, interviewing with us, did the application with us, and is crushing it in dental school, getting great grades, right? Improved his GPA with my study program. So it's Kenneth, I'm thinking off the top of my head. But so Isaiah, yes, I work with, short answer, right? I can never be a short answer, is that yes, I work with dental students. So come get with us. We have tons of pre-dents that are with us. I appreciate you all for showing up live. I'm going to be live a lot. So get here with me. This is the Premed Productivity Podcast. What up, Latanya? Yes, no mediocre. What's that Iggy Azalea song? No, I don't want no mediocre. I don't want no mediocre. Does it go like that? I can't remember. I don't know. It was a while ago. But either way, we're getting out of here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. We're back live action on Wednesday. Star Player, I don't know what your real name is, but Star Player is coming for you for Wednesday. Let me add this. Star Player, Wednesday, we are talking, how do you know if you're questioning, should you become a doctor? Let's talk about it, right? Because it's a long, hard, grueling pathway. And even when you become a doctor, it's still hard and grueling. So is that the journey you're meant to be on? Or is there something else for you? Let's talk about it Wednesday, guys. Everyone, have a wonderful evening. How do we always end? How do we always end? No excuses, just dominate, y'all.